What is two-factor authentication, 2FA? Multi-factor authentication, MFA, is a system designed to safeguard your access to services by asking you for more than one piece of evidence. The most common form of MFA is two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication. The most common form of MFA is two-factor authentication, in which an additional piece of evidence or factor is needed for access. Now, this evidence I am emphasizing is generally categorized into three types: knowledge factor, possession factor, and biometric factor. Let's look at these factors one at a time. 1. Knowledge factor. The knowledge factor is a factor that only the user knows. Ideally, it's the factor that we should exclusively know. The traditional manner of authentication, which means one step, is when you type your name, username, or email ID, and then type in the password. It goes without saying that it should be only you who should know this password. Also, this password should never be shared with anyone. So, a password is the most common form of a knowledge factor. 2. Possession factor. This is another factor that 2FA authenticators generally rely on as an additional measure to confirm your identity. The possession factor is a factor, or piece of evidence, that only the user possesses. These possessions could either be in the form of a hardware token or a software token. Hardware token, physical authenticator. A hardware token is a physical object supplied by a service provider, whose services you would need to access. It is a physical entity, that is, dedicated hardware. Hardware tokens can come in two types: connected token and disconnected token. A connected token is a piece of hardware you need to connect to a computer or a mobile phone to verify your identity. This could be in the form of a USB stick or a memory card. A disconnected hardware token is a standalone authenticator. It generally comes with a built-in display that keeps generating verification codes for easy authentication. Software token, OTP. A software token is a method of authentication, wherein the service provider gives a verification code using a software or network-based service. This is mostly done by sending a verification code via SMS. A software token is the most widely used second step in 2FA, wherein a time-based one-time password is sent via mobile, which needs to be keyed in within a stipulated time for access after the user enters his password. Besides SMS, some service providers send a verification code via email, an app, or on a trusted internet-connected device for the second-step authentication of 2FA. 3. Biometric factor. This is the most recently developed factor for authentication. It authenticates you based on what you are or what you have, inherently. Unlike a hardware authenticator, you as a user do not need to possess something extra or unique to confirm your identity. Instead, the machine, using special sensors, would authenticate whether you are truly the same person that matches the login credentials. This could be implemented through fingerprint recognition, face recognition, or voice recognition. Some tech companies are even working on authentication based on keyword typing pattern or a person's walking style. Out of all these variations, the fingerprint is the most popular and reliable form of biometric authentication. Problems with biometric authentication. Apparently, biometric authentication is super cool, and eliminates the need to wait for OTPs, or possess special hardware, but they have their own set of problems. Firstly, to implement a biometric form of authentication, specialized hardware, read sensors, would be required. These sensors would be unique to the type of biometric authentication. What this means is that the service provider needs to incorporate separate sensors, like a fingerprint reader, audio recorder, or iris scanner to authenticate users. These added functions lead to additional costs from the service provider's perspective.